welcome to another edition of Shed Talk, and in this episode, as promised, we're going to get the young birds out and we're going to reuse or we're going to use a slightly amended version of my spreadsheet for assessing the young birds, and we're amending it based on, for those of you that were at the watched the last video, based on the Alan Marchet scoring system and his approach to doing it, which is fairly similar, as I said in the last episode, fairly similar to the way I do it, but there are a couple of slight changes. So I'm going to give that a go. I've got the spreadsheet set up on my laptop, and I think there is a version of this over on the Shed Talk Facebook page. So if you're not a member of the Facebook page, whiz across and have a look. If it's not up there, it will be at the moment. It will be by the time this video goes out. Yeah, go across and have a look at the Shed Talk Facebook page, and you should find a version of this, or a template version of the spreadsheet that I'm using here, if you wanted to copy, follow along, do the same sort of thing. As always, if you do enjoy the show, don't forget to hit the like button, and if you're not yet a subscriber to the channel, then do subscribe. Right, let's get those young birds out of the holding cages, nursery flights, pop them into a show cage and see how this assessment works. So we're going to start by looking at a bird that you should know reasonably well if you're a follower of the channel. This is my ring number 1 that we've been following. Remember, this was a bird that we sort of saved, I suppose. We moved the egg from a bird that was not feeding. It's an opaline cinnamon grey, as you can almost certainly tell. First thing we're going to look at is its back skull. Now, the way Alan describes this in his article is that the eye in relation, you look at the eye in relation to the cere. So and what he's saying is it should be 25% from the cere and about 75% from the back of the skull, my guess is that the eye on this bird is probably a little bit too far forward. So, and as such, I'm not going to score it particularly highly on here. So Alan scores out of 3, with a 1 being the top score and a 0 being the a 1 being the top score and 3 being the lowest. So ranking them first, second and third, with then he uses the 0.5 in between as he gets used to it. So anyway, so I'm using my normal out of 5. So for this one, I'm going to give this bird probably a 2 for back skull, because the eye, I think, is a little bit close to the cere, although I suppose the depth of the head isn't particularly big on this bird. So anyway, so he's going to get a 2 out of 5 for that. The next thing we're going to look at is linear features, and again, Alan scores this about the mentions about the lateral feathering across the cere, where coupled with lift in height above the cere. So we're looking at the top of the head, I suppose. Now, from my point of view, this bird looks quite reasonable there. So what there shouldn't be is pinching. So it shouldn't look like the that feature comes in. On this bird it does. If I can get him to look at us, you might be able to see it a bit better. But on this bird, that does come in a little bit, but not too bad. So my guess at the moment it would be a 3 from my point of view. What we're looking for is a sort of owl type feature, so around this of the facial features from the lift above the top of the cere, around the lateral feathers of the cere, and then down, following on down through the mask. So like I say, probably a 3 for this bird. Length and size of the bird. So Alan talks about the bird needing to stand up bold and tall above the perch, and displaying its top end, so the shop window of the bird. So we'll have a look. I'll see if this, like I say, well, I haven't said it yet, but this bird is not necessarily overly comfortable at the moment in the showcase. I'm going to try and get her to come back up onto the perch again, and then see if I can get it to relax and stand. So when she does stand, she's not too bad, although my feeling is that she leans across the perch a little bit too much. I don't know if you can see that. I would prefer from the perch the eye to be no further forward than probably the second bar. So if I take that as being the first bar and that the second bar, that's where I prefer the eye to be when she's just stood relaxed. And I think she's a little bit further across than that. And again, the tail is follows that line. It's not a tail's not going down below the perch very much. I will give her a couple of seconds just to see if she will settle a little bit more in the cage. So I think she has settled a little bit more now. Hopefully she'll stay like that for a bit. So when she sat like this, now she's settled, she stands a little bit better. So I think I will probably give her a 3 for her length and size, or maybe going up to a 4 just because she's got quite broadness about her. Okay, feather quality. Again, in Alan's article, he talks about the length of the feather and the breadth of the feather associated with the underdown. So really, he's talking about the feathers being either buff, intermediate or yellow. This bird, this hen, I think is a fairly buffy looking bird to me, but I do like the length of the feather on this bird. You can tell the length, it's got quite a long length of feather, judging from the mask end. As I say, judging from the mask end, it's got quite a nice length of feather. So I think for this bird, this is going to get a 4. Okay, the mask and spots, we've spoken a little bit about this already. It looks like it's going to have a real nice depth of mask about it. It's quite broad, maybe a little bit split in the middle, but it's got some, going to have, being an opaline, we would expect it to have quite big spots, and indeed I think it's going to, given that it's still a relatively young bird. So for the spots, it's going to get a 4. The next feature that Alan talks about is flecking. And as this is an opaline, I'm also looking at rather the flecking in the top of the head, which is quite normally a fair problem for opalines. She doesn't have it too much, but also down the back, make sure she's not too dirty down the back either. And again, I can see her back and she looks all right down there. So I think for this bird here, for flecking, I'm going to give it a 5 because I can't really see it. Well, there's a little bit on the top of the head, so probably a 4. Okay, balance and deportment. This is about the visual impact overall of the bird, and she's not in the greatest of conditions, but she's finally sat in a position where she's showing herself off a little bit. So For balancing deportment, I think what I'm going to do is give this bird I could do with her standing a little bit more up off the perch, so I'm going to give her a 3. So that's how I'm using the article and the scoring system that Alan suggested in the article. What I'm going to do now, rather than go through each of the birds on camera, I will go through them, and what I will probably do is show you the top couple at the end of this, and also some of the poorer birds, so perhaps the bottom 2 as well, so we can see the clear difference between them, and I might talk a little bit about how I scored those birds. Right then, as I say, that's how I'm planning to use the scoring system that Alan suggested, and once I've done the others, we'll be back and have a look at them. So these 2 birds then are the second best bird on the left, as I rated them, is the dominant pied. So he came out as second best. There's a little bit of difference in age between these 2 birds that I need to think about as well. And the bird on the right actually came out second last. And I'm hoping you can see a bit of a difference between these 2 birds. Although the yellow face is actually quite a long bird, so it's got lots of length on it, and it is still quite young. So when I come to do them in September, this bird may well actually just creep through. The other thing that yellow face has got going for it is that it is split for Ino. So that would be the other thing it had going for it. But overall, I prefer the dominant pied. It just has a little bit more about it in terms of its overall style. And I think it's going to, with a little bit more growing, it's going to be a better bird than the bird on the right. So at the moment, the way it stands at the moment, the dominant pied is going to be a keeper. It's also a hen, of course. And the yellow face, opaline, will go into the sales cage. I will probably look to get rid of that once I've done a second assessment in September. Anyway, there we go. Those are, you can probably see there, it's just not got the same head on it. It's very pointy, although a long pointy bird, I think, the yellow face. Right, I'll show you what came top and what came bottom. And finally then top and bottom. So the bird that came top is my ring number 1. It really does, if I'm going to think about this bird for next year, then it's deportment. It doesn't stand very well at all. I'll see if I can get them to sit on opposite perches so you can see, but it doesn't stand very well at all. It leans across the perch and it tends to drop its tail. The one on the left, the light green on the left, you can see it's, you know, okay, it's got a bit of length, but other than that there's nothing to it. It stands much more like a budgerigar colour than a exhibition style budgerigar. But I guess we can all agree, if we look at the top end in terms of that of the bird, it's, you know, head and shoulders above it. We just need to find it something that's going to give it a bit better stance, and I've got a couple of things in mind that might be better. It is a hen, of course, so with it being a hen, it would almost certainly be a keeper. But the bird on the left, you know, is actually considerably older than ring number 1, and you know, it's gone through, it's almost into its adult molt, so very, very, very unlikely that is ever going to be anything but a pet shop bird, so that will almost certainly go. Right, that's how the way I've done this. Do I like it? The bit I don't like, and I'm made to think about, is the flecking, because most of the birds score quite highly because they lack flecking, and that then interferes with the overall score. The other bit I'm not really sure about is feather quality, because the way I score it is I then balance the birds up in terms of the total numbers that they scored. So for example, the ring number 1 scored 23 points, and the other bird, the light green, scored 13, so there's 10 points different here. And a fair bit of that is made up of feather quality, or feather density, sorry. So the hen scored 4 for feather density because it's quite a densely feathered bird, and the light green scored only 1. So what I think I will do is I will keep that in there, feather density in there, because we don't want to be going double buffing too much. So I wouldn't want to put a 4 to a 4, for example, because I suspect that will produce too dense a bird and we'll end up with feather problems. But I think I would take it out of the overall scoring and see if there might be something else that I'm using in my other scoring system that I would add to it, because I just think it throws them a little bit in terms of the overall bird density feather type. Hope that makes sense. Anyway, that's the scoring system. Yeah, like I say, I think I will do a couple of little changes to it, little tweaks to it to better suit me. Right then, I'll pop these back into their subsequent keeper and sales areas of the young bird flights. And if, for those of you that want to know, in terms of the number of keepers based on this scoring, I end up with 4, and all the remainder of them are in the to be confirmed flight, I suppose, or cage, I suppose we ought to call it. There's a couple in there that I think might just make the grade, particularly if they're hens. Right, let's get them back in then. Well, before we go out and have a look at the fives and get an update on the breeding out there, I thought I'd give you a quick rundown on the breeding, or the final stages, I suppose, of the breeding season for the Budgerigars. Those of you who've been watching the last few episodes will know that there are 2 cages really where the update needs to come from. The first one of those is cage number 4, and we had 3 eggs in there that were full, and they were eggs that we'd fostered out from cage number 1 actually, because the hen in there just kept breaking the eggs. One of those I think we established in the last episode was dead in shell, so didn't hatch. We still had 2 that I thought might hatch. Of those 2, 1 did hatch, but unfortunately the hen didn't feed it. My plan then was to, when the next egg hatched, the final egg hatched, was to move the chick straight into cage number 5, where we've got those other 2 chicks. Unfortunately, the hen abandoned those eggs, and I came in the morning, they were all stone cold, and in actual fact the 3rd egg was addled actually, rather than dead in shell, so it wasn't going to hatch anyway. So we almost got there with that, with trying to save those 3 eggs. Just a shame that it didn't work out quite how I had hoped. Anyway, so that's the slightly disappointment in cage number 4. Cage number 5, all going well. We rung the first of the chicks, so that one's doing all right, and you can see them here, and I am currently in the process of ringing the second chick, and again you can see that from this short video. So those are the 2 chicks that are in that particular nest box. The other ones, there's nothing now in cage number 1. Cage number 2, I'm waiting for that dominant pied to go down, or the dominant pied cockbird to start its second round. Cage number 3 is now empty, so we've split the pairs and that's empty. 4 we've spoken about. I plan to take the cockbird out of there in the next couple of days. I won't let them go again. I've removed all the eggs that were cold. Cage number 5 we've spoken about. Cage number 6 is the new pair, which is the Lutino cockbird. And I know the hen has been into the nest box. She hasn't done any real clearing out, but I can see that she has been into the nest box. So touch wood, next week or two we might have a bit more success in that particular box. And that's it really from in here with the budgerigars. Like I say, we're in the process of ending that, and I think in the last episode I said I'd mention why that was. So the main reasons for that is, first, I don't want too much of an overlap between the Budgerigar breeding season and the Fife. I just think there's too much work running both those sheds with lots of breeding going on. So having only a couple of cages in here to worry about makes that a slightly easier process. The other thing is that my intent, I'm actually going on holiday this year a little bit earlier than usual. This is because of just the way it's worked out in terms of my son, who's finishing his A-levels and is about to go off to university. So as soon as he's finished his A-levels, we're going to get away on holiday a bit earlier. And I don't want lots of breeding going on for the person who's going to be looking after the birds while I'm away. So that's the second reason, and the third reason is that once I'm back off holiday, my intention is to revamp this shed in terms of what I'm going to have in here, and perhaps we'll have more about that when I come to that time. So that'll be sort of August, September time, I suppose. We can talk a little bit about that. Anyway, that's enough from the Budgerigar shed. Let's go outside and have a look at the Fife from breeding to bench. So how are things going out here with the Fifes? So if you've been following along on the previous episode, we know we've got 2 pairs down. So we've got I suppose the old pair, perhaps I should call them the originals, might be a little bit more flattering than the old pair. So the originals in the top cage, this is the pair that I originally got and bred well for me last year, laid 4 eggs, and I'm really pleased to say that from my early candling of these eggs, it looks as if all 4 of those eggs are full. So with a bit of luck we will get some more chicks off of the originals. The second pair, which is the ones I was unsure about, and so they're in the middle cage, and you might remember I thought that what is clearly a hen, because it sat on eggs, was the cockbird, and what I thought was the hen in that cage, I was sort of hoping that it would turn out to be a cockbird, and that was the outcross bird that I got. So hen is still sat on 4 eggs. And having candled those eggs, it does look to me as if all of those eggs are full as well. So it does look to me like I got them round the wrong way. That what I thought was a hen is a cock, and what I thought was a cock bird was a hen bird. So good job I got it that way round. So again, touch wood, I will double check these eggs, but it does look to me like they are, at least 3 of them look to me like they're full. So it all could be going well in the middle cage as well. My dilemma now, of course, is I've got a outcross cockbird, and do I think about getting another hen? I'd need to find another yellow hen out of the flight and give him a go with that hen as well. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. If you have any thoughts on that, if you're a Fife breeder or a canary breeder, let me know your thoughts on whether it would be worth putting him in with another hen now. I don't know, because they've obviously bonded, I'm assuming, with the hen that he's with. Right, so like I say, all seems to be going really well out here with the Fifes. So in the next episode, hopefully we could have some chicks. Well, that just about wraps up another episode of Shed Talk. As always, if you did enjoy it, don't forget to hit that like button, and of course do comment on anything you saw in this video, any other videos, or if you have anything you'd like to see in future videos. But until the next one, as always, do stay safe, enjoy your birds.